Many Ghanaian journalists of today became familiar with the word exclusive. Exclusive, which simply means that the only person who was first to have access to the information. It is a term that is often used to define one of Ghana's most revered sports journalists, one man whose career began here in Ghana, and he rose to represent Africa, represent Ghana at the BBC. Once a communication director of the Ghana Football Association, currently serves as a CAF media expert. And in the last few years, one of the things he's done so well is to contribute his quota of sports journalism by imparting his knowledge he's acquired across the globe to young Ghanaian journalists. He's created numerous websites and continues every single month to contribute to the development of these young journalists by not just teaching them how to write, but also gives them monthly stipend for them to cope. Many people actually say that within the media space, he's one of the few people who has invested his resources to ensuring that the path he is created, young journalists are also able to follow through. This is a man we've heard of him so many times, but do we know where the switch was turned on for the light to brighten him, for everyone to come to know him as the man who always rolled out with the word exclusive? Today on Prime Take, my guest is the former communications director of the Ghana Football Association, Ibrahim Sannie Daara. Alaj, how are you doing?
Fine. Thank you very much, Muftawu.
Thanks for having us in your office.
Thank you very much for coming by.
You have a very nice place. Is this where we see the exclusive from?
A lot of things are plotted here, actually.
Really?
Yes.
Since when?
We've had this office for more than 15 years, specifically located within Nima for a specific reason. I come from this neighborhood. I went to Makaranta in this neighborhood. I grew up with a lot of people who were very talented and knowledgeable, but because they did not cut the path for themselves, they could not make it either in life or find a path for themselves.
Yeah.
So I made it a point that, number one, I reached some heights in journalism or in my career that a lot of people would not have the opportunity to. So I wanted to be, like a role model for the people, and most importantly, not to tear away from the people. The reason being that a lot of the times when people come from this neighborhood and they make it in life, they try to find neighborhoods where there are high fences,
Yeah.
and the rest people don't see them, people don't have access to them, and they don't make an impact on the society. I remember one time I was working at the BBC. I came for holidays and I was sitting right in front here with a lot of people I grew up with. A friend of mine who was also a product of Nima was passing by and phoned me and said, "Why do you mingle with these people? You are a class above.
Yeah, you're now at the BBC.
You don't have to mingle with these people." And I laughed because that morning we had returned from burying one of the folks in this neighborhood. And it reminded me of one thing. At the end of the day, we are all the same. We are not greater than any other person. Maybe perhaps we were fortunate because our parents were keen on the path of education.
Yeah.
Maybe their parents didn't know, their parents did not have the money to, they did not have the guidance to if they had the money. So if we have the opportunity, one, we must not forget where we come from. Two, we must make an impact on the community. And three, this is where you find the most genuine love. I've been across the world, I've seen a lot of people, but the love I find amongst my people is unique. I'll narrate one story. My maternal grandmother passed away one day. I was in this office when my sister called me and told me that my grandmother had passed. I was just in this office. So one of the guys was here, and I told him that, look, my granny has just passed. Let me just, quickly rush there to start the preparation for the burial. So one of the guys is the one I informed that my grandmother had passed away. Now listen to this. By the time I got to Dakuman, where my grandmother lived, where she had her house, and started the preparation, I saw a bus load of people from Nima who had not been informed coming there. By the time we got to the cemetery for the burial, about 3 bus loads of many more people had joined in. They were not informed. They were not told of a funeral. And then after we had finished, I was surprised. A lot of them, including the member of parliament for the area, including the assemblyman for the area, and all the people, all of them turned up. Now, in the evening, those who had gone to work and had come here, I came back to the office in the evening because I had lots of deadlines on the various things I had to meet. So I had to come back to the office. I came back to the office. I was just here, just about to do my evening prayer. There was another delegation. They came here to say that they were away at work, so they could not come for the funeral. So they were coming to commiserate with me. It doesn't happen anywhere. This is the sort of people.
So if you want to find love, it is within communities like this.
I'm telling you, that's the truth. That is a pure love. People love you for not what you have, but they genuinely do that for you. And I see this not only with me, but with everybody. People have issues, they have events, funerals, and the rest. People turn up in numbers to support them in one way or the other. And very often people say, oh, Nima is this, Nima is that. It's not true. I've lived here since childhood, and I'll continue to live here, and I hope to die here. I say this for a reason, because there are many people who are even much more attached to the community than me. There's somebody I know. He has a house in East Legon. He leaves Nima at 10 p.m. in the evening and comes for dawn prayer in Nima. Dawn prayer is at about 5 a.m.
Yeah, 4 or 5 a.m.
So what time does the person go home and what time does he return? It's very, very common. If you have lived in Nima, it is very, very difficult to tear yourself away from it. Because there are lots of things. People don't sing the positives about Nima, Mamobi, Newtown, where I was born and grew up. People don't sing the positives. It's only the negatives that people hear about. But there are lots of positive things, very, very talented people, knowledgeable people. Perhaps they don't have the opportunities that life gives to a lot of people, yeah. And some of us, the opportunities we had.
Are you from a privileged home?
I would say I'm from a middle class home. I was very, very fortunate, number one, that my mother was an educationist. My mother has a PhD. So, in fact, when my mother was attending the University of Ghana, I was then at Presec. She was the only female wearing hijab then at the university, because I used to walk from Presec to run away from school to go to my mom to go and get money.
I see.
My mom, at that time, my mom was the only female wearing hijab on the University of Ghana campus. And she has a PhD. So it's a very high bar for me to climb. And she was also an Islamic preacher and also mentored a lot of girls in this country a lot of people, not only girls. She was a head teacher of some schools in Newtown. I think Accra, Newtown, 6 and 8. She was the head teacher, but after she had all the 5 of us, she went back to school to do her degree. She did her MPhil and went to the University of Birmingham to do her PhD. So I come from a very, very
educated
home, even though my father was not educated in terms of our ways, but he imbibed in me, first of all, my first knowledge of journalism. I'll state why. My father had about 8 radio sets.
8 of them?
8 of them. Then the airwaves were not liberalized. So he would tune in to BBC Hausa, Deutsche Welle Hausa, VOA Hausa. So he would be switching from one channel to the other, even though he was not educated through the formal education. But he bought the newspaper every day, Graphic and Times, every day.
And how was he able to read?
I think he...
Or maybe the pictures?
No! I think he read it. But he also bring it home so we can also read it. But I don't think my brothers and sisters took much interest in it, but I did.
Okay.
I did.
Your siblings are 5?
Yeah. No. My father's got 2 wives. And I've got lots of brothers and sisters.
But your mother gave birth to 5 of you?
Yes.
Okay.
My stepmom has 8. And my father had a previous marriage to where he had. So we are quite a large family.
Are you up to 20?
No. Hitting that. Maybe we could have formed a team and some reserves.
Your father couldn't strike well. My father produced about 23 of us.
Oh, well done! 2 teams!
About 23 of us. You said something quite interesting about your mother when she was at the University of Ghana. You were at a pre-sec. Which year was this?
I think it was in 1988, thereabout. Okay. Yes.
So you went to pre-sec in 1988?
Yes. 87.
87?
Yes.
That was around the time we're now changing to junior high, secondary school
absolutely,
system.
Absolutely, around that time.
Okay. But what did you study at pre-sec?
I did general arts, I did literature, I did English language. I took a lot of interest in reading. The reason being that I already had the inkling of being a journalist. So
and
I knew...
From your father's 8 radio sets?
Yes, 8 radio sets and the newspapers. So I took interest in it already. So, you know, when I was going through the motions at pre-sec, I knew that it was a path I wanted to cut. And there were very, very interesting guys in pre-sec who also helped to hone this in me. And let me pay tribute to a few of them. There's Reverend Emmanuel Okomensa. At that time, there was a magazine called World Soccer. It had then come out fresh. And Reverend Emmanuel Okomensa's father was then working with the Electricity Corporation of Ghana in Bolga. So he had something small. So he could afford to buy the World Soccer magazine. And then he would give the World Soccer magazine to me. So I started reading it, I developed the love, and that was when I started liking Barcelona. I started liking Barcelona because I read about the community nature of the team, how it was formed, and all of that. It was thanks to Emmanuel Comensa. But there were lots of mates of mine there too as well that honed and developed the talent in sports journalism, so to speak. I wanted to be a footballer. My mother was vehemently opposed to it. Why? Because in the neighborhood that we grew up, Nima, Newtown, Mamobi, wherever, a lot of footballers were then seen as bad boys or vagabonds or school dropouts. But I had a football team, you know, at the age of 12. There was a league that was played here, right at the Newtown Junction. Okay. There's a league called Floodlights. It was a league of kids, many kids. A lot of the footballers then went on to be top players and professional footballers, a lot of them, including Ghana's former under-17 goalkeeper Ali Abubakar.
Oh, okay.
And many others, many others.
I see.
So we all grew up around the same neighborhood, but when I went to Presec, that truncated my football dreams. In fact, it was the reason why my mother wanted me to go to the boarding house quickly, because living in this neighborhood, you can't control the kid. So, you know, I had to find a way to still stay in the game, so to speak. Then the media landscape was not liberalized, so there were no opportunities for sports journalists to thrive.
Yeah.
But I kept that interest, and I kept reading. I kept reading a lot. I kept honing the talent. I kept interest in football. Even when I was at Presec, I used to run away from school to go and watch Ghana Premier League matches.
Oh, I see.
Yes, we did that. We did a lot of bad stuff, you know.
Like?
If I tell the Presec headmasters, there was one housemaster called Mr. Amonkote. It's a very, very nice man, good teacher, and a good man generally. This man, you know, was a housemaster for my house, Ree's house, and he would go looking for vagabonds in Presec. He will catch all the vagabonds, but he will leave me out. He'll come and say, criminals! Saying in Ghana, criminals, you know, the bad boys who go out at night. And I won't go out at night, but I'll go out during the day. I'll find a way through IPS and walk to Legon, where I could get the trotro to go to art center just to go and watch the house training.
Hey.
We did that. We did a lot of stuff that the school didn't know about, but it helped in many ways.
Did he kill his fowl?
No. We didn't go that far. But in fact, he used to invite me to his house to eat because I took a lot of interest in sports.
Oh, okay.
I took a lot of interest in sports. There was Mr. Boy Badu, who was also the sports master, used to like me a lot because I took interest in sports and all of that. So that honed that interest in sports journalism. So I had to take it to the new level, and I would say I was fortunate that by the time I had finished, you know, secondary school, entering university and all of that, it coincided with the time that Ghana was liberalizing its way, and it gave me the opportunity to want to aspire.
You mentioned something about setting up a football team and wanting to play football. And what actually happened to that dream of setting up the football team and playing the football and all that? What actually happened?
Yes, we set up a team called Ghalibon Stars, and there was a league being played there
you mentioned
of kids.
Yeah.
And I want to replicate the league somewhere down here called Downside, because I think the kids these days don't have the opportunities to play like we did and the opportunities to do things like we did today, because the playgrounds have been limited today because of, you know, real estate development and all. At that time, we had a lot of pitches here. There was at the Lima Roundabout, there was the Ngozi Park. We had the Kanda Parks. In Newtown, you had the park at Was, and then Floodlight. That's the junction where the current Bank of Africa is. It was where Floodlight actually was, and a lot of footballers were honed from there. Maybe 80 or 90% of them went to play professional football. So I have the thinking that all of these kids in the neighborhood must also get the opportunity to want to play. And I'm thinking about what to do, time permitting, to also start a league that would give the opportunity for kids, maybe under the age of 10, to play football and enjoy it again. So we did Ghalibon Stars, but at that time there were older people who had a lot of money, so they formed Tesco. There were Muslim stars. They come from Angola. They had a very, very good team. It was managed by Alaji Papa Angola and Adolfo. So they had Muslims, great Muslims they call them. And many, many teams. I've even forgotten. There was Tesco, there was Obutu. Teams like that in the neighborhood. And they recruited players from all over the place and the rest. But we were poor. We were young boys. We were the bad footballers.
You didn't go to your mother family?
No, she won't give you. No way. No way. So, you know, it honed that interest in me, even though our team did very, very badly. But hey,
it's still the reason why you are here.
Yes.
You're still with the sport. So, growing up and having the interest in journalism, I recall some few years ago when Fifi Banson spoke about how you used to call on the show and all that.
Yes.
How did that happen?
It's true. In fact, I started with Carl Tufor's, in fact, on your TV station, on your radio station, Joy FM.
Oh, okay.
Yes, there was then Sports Link. That was when Sports Link, we had a long show on sports radio in Ghana. So I started being a serial caller, and also subsequently when Radio Gold came, I was also a serial caller. But what happened then was that Carl Tufor was so impressed with my inputs that he would even consider giving me his column in the Ghanaian Chronicle to write.
I see.
So Carl will tell me, Ibrahim, if you have something for my column today, I'll leave it for you. So I started writing and at the same time also broadcasting. So when it happened at that time, so Carl was inviting me for programs on Joy as well as Fifi. But there was a nice coincidence, I would say, that at that time I was going to Legon. It was also at that same time. I don't have to leave out this bit of me that I went to Adan Training College before going to.
Oh, really?
Yes, before going to Legon. But in Adan, I was like the commentator for football matches, even though I played, but I was also a commentator. So whilst I was commentating, I got a lot of fans from people. But
area man, community champion.
Then, whilst I was on the verge of entering the University of Ghana, one day I went for a program on Vibe FM. I'll tell you a story. Ketu Kreku was then coming on a show. So I met him in the lift. We had a conversation, just introduced each other. Him and Kwame Bamiaku were starting Radio Invest Sports.
Oh, okay.
So I was going on a program on Vibe FM. Then I met Ket in the lift. He was also coming on the show. So we had a conversation. And then I don't know, by accident I spoke Hausa and he spoke Hausa to me. So we became friends. And then he told me that he wouldn't have the time to be coming on a daily basis on Radio Universe. So since I'd gained admission to the University of Ghana, he would want me to take that. And he introduced me to Kwame Bamiako, who was also then with him, together with him. They were starting up the Radio Universe sports program. So Kwame also said the same thing, because Kwame was busy, apart from being a student, then he was also a TA. And Kurt also was coming from home. He lived in Achimota, so it wasn't far for him to come. So he found it a little bit tiring to do the daily sports programs. So what we did was they mortgaged the daily shows to me because I was on campus. But at that time, already at that time, I was juggling a lot of jobs, you know. I was running a Forex bureau.
Really?
Yes. Lots of stories.
Oh, wow.
I was running a Forex bureau at the time. I was going to school, and I'd also taken it upon myself to start, you know, bequeathing something to the kids in the neighborhood. So I would spend some time also teaching English language in some of the schools in the neighborhood and vacation classes and the rest. So I was juggling all of that.
Really?
So those early days you see start from 3 a.m. and end at 10 p.m., 11 p.m., midnight, started not today. So we started those days like that, and we're truly, truly hustling. Those days, there was no internet, and then the internet came. There was just one internet cafe or internet service in Ghana. It was at Adabraka, called Ghana Internet something. There was a gentleman there. You go there, just to open one website will perhaps take you 30 minutes. To visit just one website, let alone visit the articles in there. So I was very, very meticulous in how I found my news. I developed, even though I was not trained as a journalist, I developed I was developing the instincts for hunting for news. So those days, information was not as forthcoming as it was. You needed to hone your contacts. You needed to hone everything. You needed to do everything manually. I'll spend a lot of time and a lot of my own resources to look for news. And most of the news I would get, I can keep it for 20 years. It will just be with me.
No wonder the exclusive came.
It will just be with me. And I can promise on radio that there's an exclusive. I'll release it next month, and it will be as fresh.
Really?
Yes, it will be as fresh. Those that lived those days can testify to that. Then, whilst it was ongoing as well, through this, meetings of minds, Fifi Bansing, we used to spend a lot of weekends together. Fifi is a very, very lovely guy. You must meet him. He must tell you stories. We used to meet every Saturday after 4 p.m. After we finished his program on Radio Gold, there was a meeting point in Circle. We'll go there, eat food, lots of food, have long chats with Echo Asma and all of those guys, Yam Pofuankra, Randy, and all of those guys. When we finish, we'll just go into the night on Saturdays. So we developed a lot of friendship. A lot of people helped and honed my career, and I owe a lot to them. So at that time, whilst I was at Universe, I was also doing a sports program on Choice FM. So we had regular column or regular sections within the weekend show. First to start in the country to do Sunday programs. So after football matches, for example, Randy and Yao will anchor the show. I'll do the international news. In fact, that aspect of international news started with me. I'll say humbly. People didn't know about Turkish clubs. I was mentioning Turkish names, and it drew a lot of interest from a lot of people. And there was Stéphane Le Cousson that did the French leagues and covered African football. Then there was Tetenate, who was doing Colts football. So it's one area that has not been done these days. There was complete coverage of Colts football regularly. It's one area that people have not taken up to.
Yeah.
So those days, Colts was promoted heavily, even divisional leagues, even to the point there was a playoff match between Tudu Mighty Jets and Alhaji Franco had a team. I've forgotten the name. They were playing in a Division 2 playoff. The attendance that day was more than 30,000 people, and it was played in the military barracks in Burma camp for the fear of violence breaking out. That was a Division 2 match. Because we were heavily promoting lower tier football. We were making people who were then not known household names. There was a striker at Tudu Mighty Jets called Basa Basa Striker. He was scoring left, right, center in Division 2. Basa Basa Striker, yes. So we made such players household names even when they were playing in Division 2. So we could even drive 20, 30,000 people to watch a Division 2 match. I think that that trajectory has changed. We have gone to chase for, more of the foreign news, not paying much attention to local football. So it's one area I would encourage.
Alaji, I want to take you back.
Yes.
What happened to the forest brew business?
When I left for school, it was a family business.
Oh, okay.
When I left for school at the UK, I had to.
Was it your father's business?
No, my cousin's business.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay. So what about your siblings? What did they do?
Varied. I'll tell you one story. So, to tell you a story about my mom, she raised a lot of children that were not hers.
Yes. How many of you?
Maybe numbering more than 20. Some of them I didn't even know were not my direct relatives or were, family, but maybe distant family, because we're all raised the same. My mother is quite popular in the neighborhood and what she did generally in the country. A lot of them, so I'm coming. So my auntie, who's my mother's junior sister, was then staying with my mom. So she was a nurse. So a lot of my family members turned out to be nurses. So I don't know why, because
she had a very positive impact.
Yes. Hajia Sauda, people in Mile 7, in those areas, Tantra and the rest, they know her very, very, very well. She's a community nurse, but she's made a lot of impact wherever she's been. She was also an Islamic preacher. She's made a lot of impact. So as a result of that, my elder sister, who's in the States now, is a nurse in the States. My cousin, Ajia Diza, she's also a nurse. My niece, Mimi, she's also in the States. She's a nurse. Some of us took, people took very. In your house,
someone complains of headache.
Yes, but some of us also took to the educational field. My elder brother, he died a couple of months ago. Mohammed used to work at the Ministry of Education. He took the path of my mother, and a lot,
The Ministry of Education.
Yes, my mother used to be a director at the Ministry of Education. So she was
name. I've asked for the name.
Her name is Hajia Katumi Mahama.
Katumi, okay. My auntie's name too is Katumi.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. What a coincidence. What a coincidence.
Yes.
Your brother, is it Mohammed Sannie?
Yes, Mohammed Sannie. Yes. He
at the Ghana Education Service?
Yes.
Unfortunately, I've met him before.
Wow.
Yeah, I met him when I went there, was it 2017, 2018 or so, to meet the then Director of Education.
Yes.
In fact, we even exchanged phone numbers. Yes.
I think he was then the personal assistant of the Director of Education. Yeah. He died, he passed away a couple of months ago.
In fact, I have his number on my phone.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. His number should be with my elder brother.
May Allah accept his soul.
I mean, a very, very good guy, very, very humble guy. And his name is Muhammad Sabir. And that name Sabir, it means patience. Okay. So that name has a lot of telling on himself and his lifestyle and how he lived his life. May Allah have mercy on him.
Amen.
Yes. So, that's the trajectory. Some of my other brothers are living in the States, some are in the UK, wherever it is. I've got my elder brother, Abdul Muttalib, is a tax, whatever.
We are many. At what point did you get to the BBC?
What happened was I was at Cardiff University studying for my master's in international journalism. And
despite not having the journalism background from Ghana?
Yes. But because I had honed...
because you're not a professionally trained
journalist, by then. But, you know, I had the instincts. And by myself also, I was training myself. So by the time I got to the university, thanks to the help of a lot of guys at Choice FM who encouraged me to go, Jifa Hiachi, he was then, I think, the news editor then. Jan Pofoankra and Randiabe also encouraged me to go. And when
so they were like more of your seniors in the space?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Then when I got to the UK also, there were others who also helped me. Number one, Tanko. He's now a lecturer at the Ghana Institute of Journalism. What do they call it these days? I think the name has changed.
Unimark.
Or something, yes. He's a journalism lecturer, I think, in journalism ethics, I think so. Okay. Tanko. And then there was a former rector of the school. He also went to Cardiff University. Oh my God. I'm sorry, I've forgotten his name.
Why you go like, Sally, you've actually forgotten my name?
Yes, he'll say he'll kill me. Oh my God. It happens.
Yeah, it happens.
But he would call me Licky Licky.
Because you were licking stuff.
He held my hand at Cardiff and showed me a lot of the ropes too as well. These two guys played really, really good roles. And before that also, there was this lady called Fuse Najagba.
Okay.
And she passed away a few years ago. She was the manager of Adebayo. She also held my hands in the career itself. She gave me lots of opportunities, number one, to travel for competitions, to travel for events, and lots of other things. May she rest in peace. She died during the COVID. And she's one woman to be celebrated. In fact, she gave me the opportunity to, outside Burkina Faso, to attend my first Africa Cup of Nations. That was in 2002 in Mali. Fuse Najagba. She did a program.
That woman. Yeah, I know her.
She did a program on. She was producing a program on GTV called Bonjour Soccer. Had Fifi Bansing and Kwame Baniako as presenters there. Then I was the man on the ground at the tournament in Mali. So when Sami Kufuor was, expelled from
the team,
from the team, I was the only Ghanaian journalist there, and I had the exclusive. So when I announced, I had an insider who gave me the information that the man was going to be fired or was going to be axed from the team. And I had the exclusive, so I broke the news on Bonjour Soccer, and then things went sour between Sami Kufuor and I.
Oh God!
He thought I hated him because I broadcasted the event, but it's all behind us now. We've made up. Sami is now my friend.
Today, those things still happen. When you break stories, people still think because you have something against them.
Yes, they think maybe you hate them, but it's the job. You want to do your job, and people must understand that you might spend 1,000 years propagating good news about the person, but just the one negative news that would come out that you publish or you are bound to do it. Yeah. You are bound to inform your audiences. The person might think that you hate him, but people should not take things personal. The journalist is doing.
Have you stayed in Burkina before?
What?
Burkina, have you stayed there before?
Yes, I went for that.
No, apart from just going there to cover the tournament. I mean, if
I've been back there. I've been back there a couple of times. Recently, I went for a WAFU event there. I went to train a few journalists to.
Okay, Alaji, hang on. There was this question I asked Abdul Karim Zito. I need to ask you.
Yes.
The question is, Alaji, what tribe are you? Are you able to speak your language?
Yes. I'm Dendi. My forefathers come from the northern part of Benin.
Okay.
So there's a place called Zugu.
Okay.
People know them for having magical powers.
So you have powers?
People claim I have powers.
Do you have powers?
I have nothing. I speak the language fluently. as a result of that, I'm able to speak Zabarama fluently. And actually, I do write Ga. I do write.
You speak Zabarama fluently?
Fluently, yes.
Wow.
I speak Dendu fluently.
You've tried.
I speak Zabarama fluently.
You have tried.
I speak and write Ga. By Takashi, I'm also able to speak Tree and all of that. And I speak, obviously.
Now you've tried. What about your kids? Do they speak? How many kids do you have?
I have 3 kids.
Pair. Oh, no, that's not fair. This is not fair. Your father produced almost 20 of you. You do all the
We have to aspire to do better than our parents.
You have to.
In fact, indeed, I agree with you.
Because your mother had 5 of you. Your father had almost 20. You've done only 3.
See, the women of these days don't understand. We have to take time to explain to them. So we are in the process.
So you have only one wife?
Yes.
No. Hajia, this is not fair. This is not fair.
You don't want to be there on the bad side.
Before she goes, she shouts me and everything. You're like, Muftawu, are you actually?
Are you for me or are you against me?
Let's go back to the BBC story.
Yes.
How you got to the BBC?
Yes. So whilst I was studying at Cardiff University, I took the opportunity. There was a time where students are allowed to go on internship. So I chose to go to the BBC African Service to learn, to hone my career.
Oh, okay.
It was my dream to see what the BBC do, because I copied a lot of the stuff they did and implemented them in Ghana. Oh, okay. For example, like the roundup on the performance of Ghanaian footballers abroad. I brought it to this country the first time. Yes, and I took the concept from the BBC's Fast Track program.
Oh, I see.
So they did a roundup of goals of Africans in Europe.
In Europe.
I did it, performance of Ghanaian players abroad. So I could tell you then, when internet was not present, what Ghanaian footballers were doing. I started that program in Ghana here, and I'm very happy that it has caught. Today it's the norm. Even with foreign news, I started it in this country, and I'm happy today that it's caught on. It's the norm in Ghana. There are lots of things we started, but we learned it from other people, localized it and owned it. So that was, how we got on with the BBC. So whilst I was at Cardiff University, I was working really, really hard to excel academically, and then also, excel in the industry that I've chosen. And academically, yes, thank God we did. So today my thesis on the exploitation of African footballers in Europe can be found in the British University, the British Library, because it was a distinction work, and a lot of the things that followed. But whilst I was at Cardiff, I had an internship with the BBC. I went there to learn a lot. Unfortunately, just before I was finishing school, there was an opening, and I went for the interview, and the rest is history. The rest is history.
Yeah. And in fact, people say that when you were at the BBC, you were against Ghana football, or you were hitting hard at Ghana football.
No.
Because then you had access to internet.
No. In fact, you see, the BBC is not like the radio station in Ghana, where you just come and say things and get away with it. There are standards, number one.
You have to see the content.
Exactly. And then how many programs do we have? We just had programs that were red programs, that is Network Africa and Focus on Africa. Number one. And I was also a duty editor on the BBC website as well. So apart from reading the news bulletins, what can you say? This player has transferred. Would you have the opportunity to do commentary? No. Fast Track was a tightly produced program by top experts. the very least opportunity for you to make commentary. It's not true. These are things said by, when I took up the mantle of being with the Ghana Football Association, these are things people just throw at you, just to try to say, why are you saying
But they say you were a very hard-hitting journalist.
Yes, it is important that if every journalist must be forthright. When I was here, I criticized a lot. Yes, it's important. You criticize. When I was working in Ghana, it's important. You know why? Criticism is not the work of an enemy always. If you look at criticism as something to make you better, you take the good out of it. And I'll narrate a lot of things. A lot of the successes that Accra Hearts of Oak had in the 90s, in the 2000s, was down to the work, particularly Randiabe and I did for Accra Hearts of Oak, because we could look at them and criticize them constructively. I'll tell you one thing. There are things we did that people did not know outside. Aziz Haruna Futa will tell you how Jones Atukwefio was not sacked. And that led to House of Oak winning all the titles, including winning the African Champions League trophy. He will tell you the role I played. Uncle Atu didn't know. They wanted to sack the coach. I got inkling of it. And I set some spies in Heart of Oak and the rest. They retained the coach. The coach subsequently won them titles. These are stories I've not told anybody. But Aziz Haruna Futa will tell you how I organized them.
So you organized the boys at Heart of Oak so that they will not sack the coach? Why?
The supporters.
The supporters. What was your interest in stopping them from sacking?
Because I know they were taking the wrong decision. I knew they were taking the wrong decision.
As Ketokreku would always say, you disagree with me does not mean that I am wrong. Your decision to disagree with the leadership of Hearts of Oak then did not suggest that you were wrong. What if they had sacked him and brought a different coach and the person also came and won the trophy?
I doubt that would have happened. So based on the history that House of Oak were able to achieve then, would tell you that those
you were right. You were right.
Yes.
But one thing to
not only that, but for example, contributing to the culture of Hearts of Oak, for example, setting up their official newspaper then. It was Kurt and I, and who else? And Prosper Senado, maybe later on, set up the official Hearts of Oak mouthpiece. After we were commissioned
Phobia
by
News.
Yes, Haas News.
Haas News, yeah. Haas News, yeah.
Was commissioned by Mr. Ernest Thompson. So these are some of the things we did, and a lot of the things we did on the blind side of people didn't know. But those who were at Hearts of Oak, those that supported Hearts of Oak then, knew the contributions we did and what became of the club. Mind you, it was an Accra club. Our radio station is an Accra radio station. So we must reflect the needs of the people in the region. And we did that, and we did that excellently. Those were the days where we could go to the training grounds of Hearts of Oak and even report on it live. There was intense interest. You could go to the House of Oak training grounds one Friday and you could see 10,000 people turning up just to come and see the team train. Those days are long gone. And I think that through journalism, we can bring back some of these things that we enjoyed then. And I would say we enjoyed because we worked for it. But
now too, there are competing interests. The competing interest is now many. There are people who have access to stuff on their phones.
I agree.
One of the days where you...
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Those days, the media, that is why when I say that we must find a way to control the influence of foreign television content on domestic football. A lot of people who are not averse or who are ignorant to what is happening in the world would be opposed to it. I'll give you an example. I lived in the UK for many years, and my family, part of them are in the UK. And I'll tell you one thing. The UK, do you know you watch more English Premier League in Ghana than you would watch when you are in the UK?
True.
Why? Because there's no English football, EPL, on domestic free-to-air television.
Channels, yeah.
They won't sell the rights, the free-to-air rights in their country, but they will sell it abroad. What does it mean? He will not give it to his country, but he's giving it to you to take your audiences away from you. So you also have to react. Nigeria, for instance, has reacted. I had a discussion with Alhaji Shehu Diko, who was then the head of the Nigerian Football League for many years. I had a lot of discussions with him, and that helped him in putting forward this proposal where now in Nigeria, when you buy foreign content by law in the country, they put it before Parliament and Parliament passed it. By law, if you spend 100 cedis in buying foreign television rights, you have to spend 30% of that 100 cedis to buy local content. So that would help develop local football. Why must we take all the money from a continent that is supposed to be poor, give it to the foreign leagues, continue to make them rich, continue to dominate us in all spheres of life? Then we will focus our attention there and we'll kill ours here. There must be laws. They have laws to protect their industry. We must put in laws in this country to protect the industry in this country. Not only the industry, to protect jobs, to protect the youth and everything. Look, the other day I was doing CAF Champions League work here, and I looked at the production crew of about 60 people who were producing the matches. They have been put to work because of football, because of African football. I looked at the bars in Kumasi who had become bubbly because of the of that match that I was part of organizing. They are in jobs. I looked at the hotels. Even in the production crew alone, a whole hotel was full. Look at the teams that would come. Look at the supporters that would travel and come. The hotel industry was bubbly. Talk about the taxi drivers. Talk about the nightclubs that would be booming that night. All of these things are industry that we must take seriously. We should not just take football as a child's play, as if, we are doing maybe the sports industry a favor. It's a business. And it has got a local industry that thrives on it. We should look at it as a concept where we can grow things and make things happen. I'm so frustrated a lot of times when I see people, they say, oh, we spent 600,000 on the blaster, and you are complaining. Go and see what the others are doing. Morocco is becoming Morocco. It's becoming known in the world today because of the money their country is spending. I think that we come from a concept where we have to expose a lot more people to what is happening globally so we can get to understand the impact of what we say. That does not mean that there shouldn't be accountability where monies are spent on be it national team, be it domestic leagues, and we must have strategies to protect our domestic leagues. Which strategies do we talk about? And I talk about this thing very, very passionately. When I was young and I used to enjoy Ghana football and still do, was because why? A lot of the footballers who were then playing, let's say, would be playing for Kotoko or Hearts or whichever club, had two jobs. They had one job with the country and another job playing for the teams. For the club. So they were not eager to leave the country. I was so sad this year when I saw that almost 10 Ghanaian players had left for Rwanda. Previously it was Ethiopia, Tanzania, Zambia, Sudan, stealing our players. Now, Kuwait. Now it is Rwanda taking players away until such a time that we go back to this concept. Because I say this, when a footballer sees that there's no life beyond the football is played after 35 years, they don't earn so much. Because most of the teams, all the teams in Ghana today are owned by individuals. It is individuals that are funding, are paying for the kids of people, or Ghanaian youth, to become who they are. The state must support them. It must not be a one-man effort. Those days, when somebody is even playing in the domestic league, he's employed by the police, the army.
Yeah.
And Ali Jara, for instance, was employed by fire service.
Yeah.
So was Sam Johnson. A lot of them were employed by Bank of Ghana. All of these state agencies had some way, somehow, something to do with sports recruitment when they recruited every year.
There was Gapoha, there was New Plan Stars, there was Aquatex.
Exactly. So these are some of the things that we must go back to. Otherwise, we have no fighting chance.
But times have changed. Why would you say we should go back
We
to
should,
that?
no, I say...
Because companies these days no longer want to be heavily involved.
No. I'm saying state institutions.
State institutions, yes. So, for instance, we had Gapoha, which was it? Was it what? There was also Gihawk.
Yes.
Many of these companies,
they folded.
There was Power Stars.
Yes.
The electricity company of Ghana.
Yes.
All these people, they've now folded. They don't want to invest in the game
They
anymore.
have to, because they are state institutions, one. And a lot of them also recruit for their own good. They have their own organizational games. They recruit sports people. Part of the sports people must be recruited, must be some footballers, must be some athletes, must be some boxers, so that the player knows that, one, I'll get some salary from, let's say, if I'm playing, I work with the police, I'll get my salary from the police. Number one, I'll get some salary added on to maybe from Haas or Kotoko. Then finally, when I retire from football, I'll also have a full-time job to fall on and then have a pension. So I think that not only should government change its strategy, it must have a strategy for this. Otherwise, our domestic leagues will die and it will be on their heads. Then secondly, then secondly, we look at the concept. The footballers must also consider this. You want to go to Rwanda, Tanzania, and Kenya. With
all due respect to these countries, though.
Yes, with all due respect to them. They want to go there. After 2-3 seasons, they come back home and they don't want to play in the domestic leagues again. Few years, after some few years, you see them saying, they play for the national team and they are now poor. Because when you came back, you didn't want to play in the domestic league again. Number two, you didn't take the decision to want to be with one of the state agencies. So when you retire, you have a job to fall on. And even when you retire, for a footballer, you retire between 32-35. From then, up to the time God takes you away, let's say you turn 80, who would be looking after you? But when you have a job with the state agency, after you retire from active footballing life, you go back to your job. And after you retire from that job, you have a state pension to fall on. I think that footballers must reflect, our governments must also reflect, our sports ministers and the rest must also look towards this direction in a way that would help us change the trajectory and bring Ghana football to the top.
Have you put up some like a proposal kind of and submitted to people in authority to consider these things you are saying?
A few times, yes, I've shared some of these ideas, and I know that
verbally or written?
Verbally.
Okay.
But people have also written, thanks to some of these things I've said, people have also written that and presented it to government. Okay. And I hope that this thing is taken seriously.
Okay.
I don't care whether it's the NPP or the NDC, it must be done. It is a duty. It is not as if they are doing a favor. It is the duty of government to provide for the youth of this country, and they must do the needful to protect this industry that has got a trickle-down effect on jobs in the country and even stability of the country. If you have an idle youth, they will go on demonstrations. If you have an idle youth, they will go, doing things that are not supposed to be right. It is government's responsibility towards its youth. It is not a favor.
It is not a favor. I want to come back because the conversation took a turn.
Yeah.
I'm coming back. At what point did you receive a call to come and work as communication director of the Ghana Football Association? And how was that moment like?
Well, I had received maybe 6-7 calls prior to me accepting. Yes, a lot of the times. 4 times by Randy Abe, On days he will visit London, I'll meet up with him, we'll have a conversation. Ibrahim, I think you should come back home. You've done your bit in the UK. I think you should make an impact back home. He made that overtures towards me maybe about 4 or 5 times. President Kwesi Nyantakyi also made overtures like that towards me maybe 2 or 3 times. And may his soul rest in peace. Jordan Anagla also did that maybe twice when he meets me with Mr. Abu Sondoko, who I see as my senior brother. He will meet me and make these overtures towards me. And at a point in time, I felt that what they were saying made sense. After I felt I'd achieved or I'd seen everything I have to see at the BBC. Because after the 2010 World Cup, after I'd done the opening match and the final match of Africa's first World Cup, I thought...
Were you the commentator for this match?
Yes, I was the co-commentator.
The color commentator.
For these...
How many years did you work with the BBC?
Close to 9 years.
Eh?
Yeah.
Wow, they paid you well. You were making good money out of BBC.
You know, Muftawu, there's one thing that I did not look too much to, that is money. I had the passion to do the job. Even if I was given the opportunity to do the job for free, I would have done it.